You're listening to episode 225 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Janelle Christa, the spiritual ninja. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Handt, and I want to welcome you to Lifestyle Locker Radio. It is here where we talk all things lifestyle, from fitness to nutrition, peak performance to longevity, awesome relationships to inspirational stories. We take you on an amazing journey to all things life and lifestyle. Enjoy the ride. And for today's guest, if you want to learn more than they're going to tell you on this show, I urge you to scroll down, check out the show notes to get a detailed bio and everything you need to know about our guest today. We also encourage that you comment, review, and share this show if you are enjoying it from wherever and whenever you're listening. Lastly, we encourage you to check out all the links that we provide in the show notes. They are there for you, for your health, for your lifestyle. We ultimately want you to unleash your human potential. So dive into this episode. We'll see you on the inside. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lifestyle Locker Radio. We have another amazing guest today. Her name is Janelle. She's a spiritual ninja, so welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to meet you, Josh.
Yes, so this is going to be a great show. I had to stalk her a little bit like when we were actually getting her onto the show, and she's got some amazing stuff on YouTube. I really highly recommend you guys go there and give a look-see. Really cool stuff, very timely and very, very professionally done. I'm not sure if you're a video editor by nature, if you had that done, but that was such an amazing video on the pandemic that I got to see on the lockdowns. We're not going in that direction yet, but I want to actually have you just share a little bit about your story, because, if someone goes to your website like I did, and I start to read and like, holy cow, suicidal, trauma, sickness, things that I want to say robbed you of your 20s, but maybe hopefully helped transform you through those years. Can you share some of that story with us?
Yeah, sure. So yes, I do kind of feel in some ways that my 20s were a bit robbed, but I also feel like it was necessary. So I started, since you talked about suicide, I guess I'll start there. I started when I was about 12 years old, having suicidal thoughts, and started cutting myself, and was really, really not healthy mentally, in that I kind of spiraled downward all through my adolescence. And I had a lot of crazy things happen to me throughout my life. I had about 14 siblings by the time I was 18, and none of them were from the same parents.
Wow.
Was like adopted or step or half, or I was the adopted one in some cases. So it was just a not super stable, I guess you can say.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of crazy things that had happened. And by the time I was 18, I got really into drugs. I started doing drugs when I was like 13 or 14, but I got really into them when I was 18, and I continued to do them pretty heavily for a few years, like every kind of drug you can think of. And I was in a really gnarly place. It was really ugly. And I just wasn't really ready or willing or able to deal with all the terrible things that had gone on in my life, and I didn't have the tools to do so. So as a child, I could escape through my imagination and through playing pretend.
Mm-hmm.
And as an adolescent, I just tried to use that through drugs.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it was kind of helpful in the beginning because it was like, oh, there's other worlds out here besides mine. I'm going to explore these. And then it got really gnarly and awful, and continued on for a few years. And I got institutionalized a couple times, and it was very, very heavy. And then when I was 21, I unexpectedly got pregnant, which was amazing timing, because I had just gotten out of rehab and I was clean for like 2 weeks, and I got pregnant, and it was totally unexpected, but it was the best possible thing that could have ever happened to me, because I used that as my reason to start to heal myself. And I wanted to give her a really happy childhood. And so I put all of my will and my love into trying to recover. It got way uglier before it got better. And I feel like we're kind of collectively doing that as a society now. We're in the dark night of the wood, you know, of the soul, just trying to, everything is coming up all at once. And it definitely did in my 20s for me on an individual level. And now I'm 35 and I feel like I'm on the other side of it. So I do believe as a collective, we can all get on the other side of it as well. Cause I've seen it in myself, but yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I enjoy, I mean, I don't enjoy knowing that you had to go through those things, but I enjoy hearing that there can be some really dark places. I mean, starting it as like a preteen or just like that early teen years and thinking suicide and then turning to, you know, going from imagination to, you know, when you're an adult and now to trying to chemically escape from reality, maybe if I'm using the right words, and then ultimately getting clean. And then, you know, a purpose shows up in your life through a pregnancy. And in the early 20s, like that starts to transform you as a person. So let's go into that a little bit, because I think this is the important part, right? Like the darkness, people have different versions of their darkness, whether it's drugs, whether it's bad addictions to certain things. When you got pregnant and that process started inside you, I'm sure mentally, physically, emotionally, all those things started to transform when you realize this. Can you bring us through those couple, maybe that first couple few months or first years of what it's like to go through the transformation where things started to show up, you know, the light. If you were in the darkness, what is the light like?
So it was pretty interesting. I'll tell you a little story. So, um, well, it's actually a big story. It was a big part of my healing. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was about 6 months pregnant. My little brother, totally unexpectedly and very tragically died. And that was kind of the thing that probably could have sent me off again, you know, started using and just fell off and kept going down that same road because it was really awful. But about 2 nights after he passed away, I had a dream. And in my dream, my brother I was like driving down the road and I looked over and I saw my brother and he was in a fight on the side of the road with this big bully. And I hurried and got out of the car and I was rushing to go break up the fight. And there was all these people there and they were all watching. And this bully was just enormous. There was no way he was going to take out this bully. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. And he kind of walked toward me and he put his hands on my belly and he said, "You can't save me." And in that moment, I knew like I couldn't save him. I had to, the only person I could save was me and this little human growing inside of me. And so I took that dream and I used that every single day. That was the light, because it really was dark, and it is dark when you're looking at all of your stuff that you've dealt with throughout your life and the things that you've stuffed down and the things that your family has stuffed down for generations and generations and generations. And you're having to break that cycle. It's not fun. It's not pretty. It's not light. It's kind of ugly. And so you need to grab a hold of those moments of light and use them as reference points. And then soon enough, I do feel like there's more and more lights that start to show up, right? It's like you do, as you break through different things, more beauty can show up. But it's not easy. And my 20s sucked. I mean, they were horrible. I would say they were worse than my adolescent years, which I didn't even think was possible because they were so terrible. But having to face all that stuff. And I know I'm not sounding super encouraging to people right now. It's like, it's like, oh God, you know, that's why people avoid looking at all of this stuff and learning how to deal with their emotions and their woundings and their traumas. And they just shove it down because they're like, oh God, it's too painful. It's going to suck. And it does, but it's temporary. You don't have to live with that for the rest of your life. Because I would rather have like a shitstorm happen in my 20s that sucked and were horrible than have that be my entire life of me living in that darkness, holding that inside of me and holding me captive, right? So I do feel like now I'm on the other side of it, and it hasn't been that long, really, in the big scheme of life and the big scheme of family generations. It's a tiny, tiny blip. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah.
But
So, I mean, you made me think of a couple things actually. And there's a quote, I'm a chiropractor, and the guy, BJ Palmer, that developed it, he had a saying. He said, it's better to light one candle than to curse the darkness.
yeah,
And I think that's what maybe that dream was the candle,
yeah,
for you in that darkness. And it was easier it's seeing even that little glimmer, right, can make a big change. And you start to find these other candles, these other things that just start to brighten up life. And I think that's how I perceive that story. And I think it's powerful. I know people are like, oh, it's doom and gloom. No, it's reality.
yeah.
No two humans are the same in that sense, and that our backgrounds are so interwoven, but they're so different. And
Mhm.
I think it's powerful to recognize that in those dark times, no matter what it is for that person, and even yourself, right? Like that glimmer of hope, that little candle that's lit in the darkness, is easy to go towards, but it looks so small, I think, maybe in the big scheme of things, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's I want to keep going with this, because I think this is really interesting, and in the evolution. How so your 20s are bad, now we're 35, right? But there a defining moment? I know we had the dream, and then I mean, I know you have a book out now and all of this stuff, so there's a lot that's evolved over time.
Yeah.
But was there a defining moment, you know, where you said, you put your you put your foot down and said, I'm in, like, I'm 100% in, and I'm making my changes, and nothing and nobody's going to stop me?
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few of those moments. But I think, I don't know why this story is coming to me right now, but I, I remember there was one moment where I was feeling really sorry for myself, like we never want to admit that, by the way.
Mhm.
Like no one ever wants to admit they're in self-pity. And when you bring up self-pity, people just get uncomfortable. Like, oh, it's like this
Mhm.
weird thing, which is hilarious to me because we all experience it. But it's like people are so unwilling to be, seen as self-pitying, but we all go there. So I was in this moment of just dire self-pity, and I was on the ground and I was crying to God or whoever, like, and I was saying, are you a masochist? Like this is so sick. Like I feel like I'm being punished. I'm in hell. And I heard this voice kind of say to me in this really joking way, like, you know how much street credit you're getting right now? And, and I just busted up laughing. And I realized this is really a game. I mean, this is really all for fun. This is we take this so seriously. All of this is so serious. And it's really not, and it really doesn't have to be, no matter how awful it is. And so that was kind of a big moment I realized where you just have to learn how to bring the fun into it and enjoy the process a little bit more, because it is we're in the nitty gritty of creation. Like we are the it's so amazing to be physical, to be in this physical body, and to be able to experience time and all of these bizarre, crazy things that we experience in being human. And just being able to have gratitude for that and go, okay, so maybe on the other side of this, there is no time, there is no uh, anything that I have to wait for. I get to just have everything, just manifest anything instantly. I can just call it in. I want this, and in this experience, I have to wait for it, I have to work for it, and I have to learn how to enjoy that. And so I feel like in that moment, it was just such a random moment, but it really was like this big awakening for me of like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to just have fun doing it. And it's become so much more fun since then, because it's like our energy really does go, where our attention is flowing. And
Mhm.
so if we can just learn to have fun in it, and make a joke and have a sense of humor, even if it's a wicked sense of humor. Just play with it and go with it. And so that, I feel like, for me, was a really big moment of just saying, okay, let's go for it.
Yeah, I don't know who said it. There was a quote either by a comedian or an actor or somebody or someone at some point said, don't take yourself so damn seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, and I think that really is an important thing. I guess, and we can talk about personality types, but I think it doesn't make a difference where you are. We can all, like you said, we can all look at ourselves like Michael Jackson said, like the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror, right? We can look at ourselves and we can lie to ourselves very easily if we want to.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think opening up and being okay with things maybe not being okay for that moment, it doesn't mean it's a lifetime,
Yeah.
is huge. And being able to smile and laugh and go, like you said, like this is our limited time here as human beings as we know it. And this is crazy that we're having this conversation because I just had an interview. We were talking about life, like what is life, period.
Yeah.
And like, are we this physical being or what are we, So
Yeah.
I think it's really powerful to step back and go, you know what? It's okay if I screwed up. It's okay if someone did something that made me upset. It's okay. Like I can deal with it. It doesn't determine my future. It doesn't determine my past. It is what it is, and we can have fun and move forward. So on your journey, when did the spiritual ninja, when did she show up? Like what happened?
Um, so Spiritual Ninja, the book is really, a guidebook for people who want some tools on how to stay connected and feel grounded even when the world is falling apart and is really chaotic and crazy around them. So I think that I'm like the queen for writing that book because I had so much chaos around me all the time and having to learn how to stay grounded in it. But it took me a long time and I didn't know how to do that. So, being a ninja really is a deep commitment. I mean, it takes a lot of strength and a lot of desire and a lot of imagination and a lot of skill to be a ninja. And so I I brought the two words together because I think a ninja, in a way, it's kind of like just a masterful human, right? And I think a lot of the times when people get really into spirituality, which I certainly have at some points in my life, you can get lost in like the fantasy. And I was just having this conversation with somebody. They were like, well, how do I ascend? How do I transcend beyond my body? I'm like, well, you can go to sleep and dream, or you can die, or you can do drugs, or you can just enjoy being in your body, because it's a pretty incredible, amazing experience. And you can experience what that is like to be a spiritual being inside of a body and just learn how to totally master that. And I think that's the real beauty. And that's why part of the reason why we're here and why we're experiencing this. My daughter, she said, she gave me the best advice in the entire world when she was like 5 years old. She said, we were driving down the street and she said, hey, mommy, what's the meaning of life? And I was going to tell her my own thought on that. And I thought, well, that's not really fair. Who am I to tell her what the meaning of life is, even if she's 5? So I said, well, what do you think the meaning of life is? And she said, well, I'm going to have to think about that. And I said, okay, you think about that. It might take you a while. So the next day she says to me, she says, I've been thinking really hard for a long time about the meaning of life. And I finally have come up with the answer. And I said, oh, okay. All right. What's the answer? And she said, it's to have many different experiences. And my mind was just so blown. It was like, not to have a good life, not to make a lot of money, not to be happy even. It was just like, let's have lots of different experiences. And that, it really changed my whole perspective on life in general.
Yeah.
And I think that is what it is to be a spiritual ninja, is just to have many different experiences and to be able to feel connected in all of it.
Yeah. Out of the mouth of a 5-year-old. How cool is that? I mean,
I know, right?
I spent all this time thinking about it, all 20 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing, and I think that's so cool, as a kid, having like, you're just a sponge for everything, paying attention to life. And I think we can learn a lot as adults. The first 7 years of life, like our brains are just mirroring and looking and following and seeing all of these things. What if we started to have some of that, you know, after 7 years old,
Yeah,
right? Like,
right.
well, how powerful, just talking about the spiritual ninja. I mean, I love that you use the ninja as the person that's like ultra dedicated. It's a very masterful person that's studied their art for and their everything about their skill for a lifetime to come
Mhm.
out as like this unbelievable type of warrior, if you want to call him that. And then, but the your side, just connecting what a 5-year-old said to that masterful piece and then giving some tools and tips along the way. Would you mind sharing just maybe a couple tidbits from the book? Just, maybe a couple of tools, like some simple things people can do to
Yeah.
maybe just have a little bit of a taste of what
Yeah,
it's like?
sure. I'd love to. One of my favorite chapters in the book, I talk about your unseen friends or your ninja senseis, your unseen ninja
Mhm.
senseis. And so I'm actually a big fan of Tony Robbins. I love him. I've
Mhm.
always loved him. I think he's great. And one of his big things that he talks about always is proximity is power. He says, like, the people that you surround yourself with, if you surround yourself with successful people, you'll be successful. And I think that's really true. But I think a step beyond that is having a really great proximity with all the different aspects of yourself. And that's where
Mm.
you're going to find your true success. And to be able to consciously become very intimate with these different aspects of yourself um, is the beginning of really truly understanding how multidimensional you are as a human being. And so in the book, I give little tidbits. And in my online spiritual ninja course, there's a meditation that guides you through meeting all these different aspects of yourself. But people just listening, you can, close your eyes or even just think about it. You can realize, like, okay, I have this magical child self that I was, maybe when I was 0 to 4 or 5 years old, that is sees lava on the floor and that sees fairies in the sky and that can fly like Superman and just really truly lives in their imagination and enchantment. They really truly are enchanted by reality because they haven't been told what's what or why is why. And so everything just is. It's pretty miraculous. And that part of us is still really, really alive inside of us. And when we tap into that part of us, we can really, truly, deeply tap into the creator inside of us. And we can tap into the visionary and the magician and the innocence and all of these different aspects of ourselves that are still so very much alive. It's like that person doesn't die or we don't outgrow
Mhm.
them. They're still there. So really starting to develop a relationship with that magical part of yourself, I think, is one of the most amazing tools that we have available to us. And if everybody did that, we would be in a totally different world. So that's one of the unseen friends or senseis I talk about in the book. And I have a whole list of them, but one other one I'll give on the show is just because I think it's really important, is the relationship with your future self. And really,
Mm.
really, really, really creating a relationship with your future self as if they already exist. And because they have all the answers, they've already lived through it. And hindsight is our greatest superpower. So tap into this future self, whether it's in meditation or just in your thoughts or whatever, and start to develop a relationship with that part of you. And you really, really, truly can feel more connected to who you are, because we need a sense of the future. Otherwise, that's why I, at such a young age, became so suicidal, as I didn't have a sense of the
Mm.
future. But when we have a sense of the future and it's really strong, we can feel really connected to that future and to ourselves.
And that's so powerful. I really like that concept of these these senseis, right? These visual senseis, if you will. Maybe they're physical people as well that you may be mentoring, like a Tony Robbins or something like that. I think, but it's so powerful. Going back to the 5-year-old, like talking about finding that magical space and finding that that part of us that was creative and fantasy was reality, and like it was life was fun. Life, like, there was no worries, there was no stressors. Not that they're not going to be in our real lives, but being able to, I think, tap into that, that's such a huge thing. And I think that's such a great thing. And that's why I'm smiling a lot right now. I know it's on audio, but I think it's such a neat way to have a perspective on life. I don't have any kids, but I have two nephews, just one and one who's 3 years old. And I love like just watching that imagination run wild with the 3-year-old, like with toys and cars and oh my God, all of this. And it's so cool just to like go, I was like that once.
Yeah. And
I
you
was,
still can be.
yeah,
You
exactly.
still
Exactly.
can
You know,
be.
and I think this is really neat. So and I don't know if you would think of it in this perspective, but our imagination then was obviously very like anything was possible, which is very, I think, a very important piece of the puzzle. But we, like as adults, we use the word like manifestation. You even use it a couple times. So would you say that imagination as a kid maybe shows up as manifestation as an adult?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when you really develop a strong sense of your magical child, your enchanted child, your innocent one, whatever you want to call them, your manifestation can just be much more instant because they have no doubt in their power. You know, they live in that fantasy.
Yeah.
When you can awaken that, I mean, forget about it. Everything becomes much more real.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and I'm glad we went down the road back to childhood, because it's really just making me think about, how grateful I am for the things like the things that I've done as a child and that have brought me to where I am today. Like, little did I ever think I would be in front of a computer having conversations with people from around the world
Right.
that are inspiring and helping and transforming others' lives. I like, as a kid, maybe being on radio or something would have been cool, but this is a whole different world.
Yeah.
So, and I would love for everybody just to really think about that inner child and take a few minutes and just step back and go, holy cow, like you were once that 5-year-old that knew the meaning of life. Right? You once were that person. And whether you're having a hard time or you're having a good time. And I think when people maintain certain things, like even if it's maintaining good, I think you're in a stagnant place in life. It's always going to be like a seesaw. I truly believe, we got to start always going in the direction that we want. And I think that's maybe why you resonate with like a Tony Robbins, a very masterful person, what he does in helping transform people, obviously. So for you, I know we have the Spiritual Ninja book, which definitely everybody just needs to go check out. Your website's awesome. There's a couple of cool things I would love to share, but I can't say certain words on the show. Otherwise, iTunes will bleep it out or hide the podcast. But I love some of the hashtags that you have on your page on the right in the homepage. So what are other ways that people can connect, that can learn, that can explore more about this? I know you mentioned a course. Can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I have actually I have a free course that anybody can go to. It's totally free. It's getting updated now, so it's going to include even more stuff, but it has a ton of different meditations and videos and worksheets, and it's called A Course on Consciousness, and it's just to help you begin to expand your consciousness and become aware of your unconscious mind. And that's totally free and available to everyone. A good friend of mine recently, like very good friend, close best friend, passed away. And during his dying process, I was able to take him through all these meditations. And he always used to make fun of me and think I was woo-woo and weird, even though I try to keep it as grounded as possible. But in this, he was very respectful, by the way, but he still thought it was a little woo-woo. But in his dying process, as you're kind of going in and out of reality and in all these different realms, and obviously on medications and different things, he became more open to exploring some hypnosis and some meditation. And I remember I took him through one specific meditation, which was helping him to shed his things in his body and all the things that we associate with our identity. And after that meditation, he just opened his eyes and he was like, oh, gosh, I wish I could have done that sooner. And so I knew that I needed to make it all available free. So I just put that out there for everyone.
Very cool.
Yeah, it used to be. I used to charge for it. Now I'm just like, you guys all have that. I want everyone to have it, and in his honor. So that's free. And then I have 2 other courses. One is the Spiritual Ninja course, and one is the Harmony Keys course, which, you know, on your website, I know that you're all about peak performance and emotional well-being. And so this is all about emotional well-being and how to identify stuffed emotions. And as a chiropractor, you're probably well aware of how we stuff emotions into our body. The Harmony Keys is different than most systems because I talk about emotions as all being positive rather than, you know, depression is negative and anger is negative. I'm like, no, they're all positive. They're all feedback. And they only become negative when they become stuffed inside of us. And that's when they start to putrefy. And that goes for so-called positive or expansive emotions as well, like gratitude or happiness. If we stuff those down inside of us, they also start to become, putrefy and make us sick. So that course is all about teaching people how to identify the emotions and release them, and so they can live more in the present time. So those are courses I have.
Very, very cool. And what are the best places? I mean, obviously, we're going to connect everybody to the website, and you know, you all see the cool hashtags and the things that I am talking about, you know, depending on what year you're listening to this down the road. I'm not sure if those all still be there, but they're very cool. Make sure you please check out her YouTube videos, the courses. But what are the best places outside of, I mean, I'm pointing people to YouTube. What are the best places for people to connect with you, to follow you, to maybe get inspired more?
Oh, well, thank you. I have a couple Instagram accounts. My main one is Janelle_Christa, which is my name. And that's where I spend a lot of time. And then I have another one that's just for productions, like acting and writing and screenwriting, that kind of stuff, which is Janelle Christa Productions. But if people just go to my website, actually, I love when people send me messages after podcasts. You can just connect with me. It's always really fun to hear and then to share back with you, you know, what people are saying. So if anyone wants to drop by, I love that.
Awesome. Well, so yeah, all these details will be in the show notes, everyone. So you don't have to worry about any of the details. We got that covered for you. So Janelle, one last, and we'll say final question. It's got to have 3 answers. All right. if you had to tell someone today 3 specific things they should do to unleash their human potential a little more, to improve their lifestyle a little more, what would you tell them? What would be the 3 things?
It's so easy. This is like what so much of my coaching practice is all about, is these 3 things. Is 1, emotions, which we just talked about, healing your unresolved emotions, releasing your unresolved emotions. 2, healing and changing and transforming your beliefs, and all your limiting beliefs, and changing those into more expansive beliefs. And 3 is hands down, you know, detoxifying your body that has had those emotions and those beliefs, and that has attracted maybe foods or drugs or different things like that that are not really optimal for the body, and working to release those things. So those 3 things, 100%, hands down.
Perfect. I love it. And you were spot on. Everybody, I didn't prep her with that question. I mean, she was right on. Usually people go, oh, I have to think about this. Yeah. So thank you. That was awesome. I mean, it shows you're on purpose, and it shows you are, you know, and I don't know why this keeps coming to mind, but like, I think of people almost like a rhino. They're able to charge through a lot of the BS and really stay focused on their vision, on their mission. And obviously yours to impact people the way and inspire people to be, you know, emotionally the best people that they can be, and through their health in their life. So I want to thank you for sharing your story with our whole audience here. I think they're going to get a ton out of it. I absolutely love these conversations because in a way it's selfish to me. And I mean, that's really initially, I really want to learn, but I love having this as something that can go across the planet and inspire others to inspire change. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it was such a pleasure to meet you. You're such an amazing spirit.
Thank you so much. Check out her website, check out all the Dr. Josh Handt. This was Lifestyle Locker